This is our Sichos class. Now we've been learning Sichos all winter. And what we do is officially learn one Sicha per week. But there's a sequence, there's an order to what we're doing. What we're doing is, we're learning Sichos that journey through the life and times of the others. We started way back with Avraham Avinu. And we did Avraham, many steps in Abraham's life. We did Yitzchak, we did a variety of steps in Yitzchak's life. And we're doing Yankov. And as you know, right, Avraham is the beginner, Yitzchak is the perfecter, Yankov goes to Golus. That's how it works. Avraham opens it all up, Yitzchak achieves perfection, and Yankov starts to suffer. That's the Eibishter's plan. And Yankov's life begins with Vayetze and Vayishlach. Vayetze is one kind of tzara, Vayishlach is a different kind of tzara. And then Vayeshev, Miketz, Vigish, Vayechi is a joining of Yankov's tzaras with his children's lives. That's essentially what happens in the next few parashas after this one. The last 3 or 4 classes were about Yaakov Avinu in Lavan's house. Right? The big news is Yaakov goes into Chutz La'aretz, he leaves the Holy Land, he goes into the diaspora, has 12 children, 13 children, and they're all tzaddikim. Avraham has a couple of kids, one is a Rasha. Yitzchak has 2 children, one of them is a Rasha. Yaakov has 13 children, they're all tzaddikim. And where did he give birth to and raise those children? In Chutz La'aretz. And of course, the Rebbe's point is, going into Golus is very, very hard, but the greatest treasure of Jewishness is discovered in the exile. That's the spirit of it. But there's 2 Goluses to Yaakov's life. You'll see there's more Goluses, but in the meantime, there's 2 Goluses to Yaakov's life. The first Golus is Lavan, and the second Golus is Esav. Lavan is his father-in-law, and Esav is his brother. The Golus of Lavan is Pashas Vayetze, the Golus of Esav is much of Pashas Vayishlach. But there's a very, very obvious difference between Lavan and Esav. It takes Yaakov Avinu 20 years to overcome Lavan. It takes Yaakov Avinu exactly 1 day to overcome Esav. And you wonder why the disparity. If Yaakov Avinu deals with Lavan in 20 years, and Lavan is running hula hoops, he's draining him a cup, he's driving him insane, and Yaakov holds steady. And in the end, Yaakov Avinu comes away with Lavan's wealth, materially, but much more importantly, spiritually. If it takes him 20 years to deal with Lavan, how does it take him 1 day to deal with Esav? And the answer is very, very simple. Really, really, really simple. Because what does the word Lavan mean? What does Lavan mean? White. Lavan is this pure, righteous guy. He has these pious eyes, this soft tone, and these beautiful clothing. And he's a crook from start to finish. What's Esav? Esav's an angry guy who walks around in denim with a rope around his waist and a hatchet in his belt. In other words, Lavan is a big Rasha, but he gives the pretense of being this big tzaddik. And you have to deal with all the duplicity, all the lies, all the bluff. It takes a long time. Esav says, I hate you and I want to kill you. Okay, that's bad. But as long as your enemy tells you straight, I'm your enemy and I hate you, what Yaakov Avinu accomplishes with Lavan in 20 years, he accomplished with Esav in a day. And that's the transition from Pashas Vayetze to Pashas Vayishlach. In Pashas Vayetze, Yaakov is struggling with Lavan. In Pashas Vayishlach, he's very afraid. He's very afraid. But it's not confusing, it's not entangled. It's not a whole spiel. It's straight up. His brother hates him, and he has to pass through him on his way back home to his father and to the Holy Land. He deals with Esav in a day what he dealt with Lavan in 20 years. And that's today's topic. Today's topic is about the difference between the Golus of Lavan and the Golus of Esav. Yaakov deals with this person who tries to behave like a pious, righteous man, and he's all nothing, all sheket. 20 years. And then with a man who's overtly evil, directly, in your face, no good, he deals with him in a day. And I got up early this morning to prepare these classes, and I spent forever trying to find the Sicha that I knew existed. I didn't find it. I came to yeshiva, and one of my coworkers showed me the Sicha, And along with the Sicha, you have a Maimer from the Alter Rebbe. What we're going to do is learn this Maimer from the Alter Rebbe, which is going to make the point I just made. But you're going to discover a very, very, very strange curveball. Okay? Let me ask you a question straight. Who's a trickster and who talks straight? Lavan is a trickster and Esav talks straight the other way around. Esav talks straight. Yeah? Well, you're going to find out that it's not so simple. Depends who Esav is talking to. When he talks to Yaakov, he talks straight. When he talks to Yitzchak, he's a bigger ganef than Lavan. Right? So let's read the Pashtus. If you look on the first page, the very last two lines on the left, you see, when Yaakov is fighting with Lavan, he was a deceiver, he was a liar, very much, and therefore,
Where is this from? Is
a Maimer of the Alter Rebbe, Maimarim HaKtsorim, it was very difficult. In order for Yaakov to defeat Lavan, he had to become as devious as his father-in-law. There's no way to defeat an enemy unless you fight his battles. Which is why their war lasted so long, and that's why the Golos is so long. But then he met Esav. Esav is in your face evil. Esav he dealt with in a day. You get it? Yeah? Now look at the top of the same page. Top of the same page. Taf Nun Gimel. Second line from the top of the page. You know what? Let me read from the very, very beginning of page Taf Nun Gimel. It says, Nimtza ara etzle behester baramos. Somebody whose evil is concealed and devious. Shayetzer hara geinev daitit. Hara is trying to fool you. She'eni yedei ki berahu v'chol. It's very difficult to discover even that he's your enemy. V'lachein yachal lishe zman rav. Takes an awful long time. Actually, Yifta meant to get rid of it. That's why dealing with Lavan took such a long time. Took him forever. But when he meets Esav, and the Rebbe says, what does Esav mean? This is the word with Gegu Magig, and the implication is, when you meet Gegu Magig tells you straight, I hate you. In other words, Shayetza is overt. Says the Rebbe by his galas b'mheida yinatchu you. You feed him quick. The point is, Lavan was devious and tricky, and it took forever for Yaakov to defeat him. Esav was direct and evil. It took him one day to overcome him. Okay? So, last week's parasha, we learned about Lavan. This week's parasha, we're learning about Esav. In other words, I say last week's parasha is Vayetze. Learn about Lavan, he goes, he spends 20 years, he's a shepherd. He starts out with nothing, he comes with an incredible amount of wealth, and of course we all understand that Yaakov's wealth is not so much material wealth as much as it is spiritual wealth, and he gets it from Lavan by paying Lavan's game. Then he meets Esav, and in one day he deals with Esav. Okay? Now let's learn the Sicha. But as you see, we're not really learning the Sicha. We just learned the end of the Sicha. Now here's how we work. Okay, now I'm telling this to the new girls here especially. I underline words. We read only what I underlined. In other words, I'm not going to keep telling you where I'm holding. If you will just read what I underlined, you'll be with me. If you'll start looking around, you'll be not with me. According to what we just said, we should understand the difference between Lavan and Esav, as Lavan is the tricky one, and Esav is the angry in your face one. There's a small problem with that. This is called Golos Esav. Golos Esav is 2,000 years old almost. Now, if Golos Esav is 2,000 years old, then Esav is a mighty trickster. How do you reconcile the fact that in the Chumash, it seems like Lavan is so difficult to deal with because he's so devious, and Esav is so easy to deal with because he's so direct, with our facts? So the Rebbe says you have to understand, there's actually two Esavs. And the way you have to understand it is Esav, Lavan, Esav. There's an Esav which is more devious than Lavan, and an Esav who's in your face. There's three, not two. Esav's relationship with Yitzchak, Lavan, and Esav's relationship with Yaakov. Esav's relationship with Yitzchak is full of tricks. He's a bigger trickster even than Lavan. Lavan's relationship with Yaakov is also devious. Esav's relationship with Yaakov is direct, in your face. Okay, that's what we're going to learn now. Inside. Teildes Esav through Parshas Teildes. The life of Esav we read about in Parshas Teildes. As opposed to the life of Esav Parshas Yitzchak are different. How are they different? In Parshas Toldos, the earlier Parsha discusses Esav's relationship with his father. It's Bo Kaides Esav b'Shachas Yankiv. It's Esav's relationship with Yankov Avinu. There's a very big difference between how Esav relates to his father and how Esav relates to his brother. But again, Yitzchak, when Esav is relating to his father, Hishtadl Esav makes every effort to fool him. His father should think he's a big tzaddik. Rashi says on the words, that he would try and fool his father Yitzchak. His father should think he's a tzaddik. When it comes to his brother Yankiv, he goes with an open war. So you have an Esav that's easier to deal with than Lavan because he's in your face evil. And you have an Esav which is even more difficult to deal with than Lavan, he's more devious than Lavan himself. And he says like this. These two ideas, Shall Esav, there are a lesson for each one of us. And the lesson is as follows. There's two categories of evil. Ragoli v'ranelam. Revealed evil and hidden evil. Hamachusa v'taman b'tei, which is concealed and hidden in good. Just like everybody understands, that when you see an evil, that's overtly evil, you have to fight against it. Kach. More so even. Tzarech wants to be careful and on guard when you have evil which is mixed with good. In other words, hidden evil. Moreover, the war against this kind of evil is kasher b'yes, even more difficult. And that's the story. There is Taka and Esav that Yankov meets. That's the one in Parshas Vayishlach. He comes out straight and tells you, I hate you, and him you have to fight with head on. But then you have a devious Esav. But Yankov himself we also find 20 years in his father-in-law's house, Lavan. While spending time with Esav, lasted one day. Right? So the Rebbe brings up the point I made. How come, turn the page, how come it takes them 20 years to deal with Lavan and one day to deal with Esav? And the answer is, Lavan the thief, his whole business is to fool you and to deceive you. To overcome deviousness and to destroy it, takes time. There's a great story from the Rebbe Marash. The fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Rebbe Marash, used to say he has no favorites. He treats everybody the same. So a chassid said to him, how could you say that to the Rebbe? He says, a malamed, mashpia goes into the Rebbe, he spends a minute by the Rebbe. A rich man goes into the Rebbe, he spends 20 minutes by the Rebbe. That shows favoritism. You're spending more time with rich people than with the malamdim and the mashpiyim. He says, don't you understand? He says, malamdim walks in my room, he tells me the truth. I give my eitz, I give my bracha, he leaves. A rich man walks in, how's everything? Oh, I'm terrific. Everything's great. Yeah. He says, when I start wearing him down, how's he gosh me? The time he's finished, 20 minutes later, he breaks down and he cries, he says, Rabbi, I lost all my money and I'm not doing so well spiritually. He says, I'm giving everybody the same attention. It just takes much longer to get to the truth. That's Lavan and Esav. Lavan is a devious fellow. Masha'enkein Esav, as opposed to Esav, Shahalach b'machama gluya neged Yankov, has a direct and open war against Yankov Avinu. Reimez al zeh rabba goli, and revealed evil shal zeh es gaba Yankov b'mhidas, and when the evil is in your face, you defeat it very quickly. So this is the difference between Parshas Vayishlach and Parshas Vayetze, Lavan and Esav. But now the plot thickens. Now that we understand two is now going to become 3. V'yashleim. Shaharamos v'hatzvias. The deviousness and the duplicity. Shall Esav klaba Yitzchak. The way Esav treated Yitzchak is pchuso v'gerua. Yesa is even lower and worse. Meharamos shall Lavan klaba Yankov. There's 3 madregas, not 2. The way Esav tricked Yitzchak is worse than the way the Lavan tricked Yankov, and the way Esav was straight with Yankov is more straight than he was with Lavan. Dehine. When you hide something bad and something good, yesh beizefan, there's 2 ways. Aleph, you try to hide the bad. Beiz, you try to show how you're good. If you want to cheat somebody, right, what do? You don't let them see that you're cheating them. But there's a higher madrega. You come across like a big tzaddik. Lavan didn't want to come across like a tzaddik, but he wanted to come across like an honest man. Esav wants to come across like a tzaddik. So Esav's deviousness is worse than that of Lavan's, because he's not only trying to fool his father into thinking I'm not a bad person, he wants to fool his father thinking he's a good person. You know which animal represents Esav? A pig. Why a pig?
Because it looks like, at first glance, it kind of looks like a kosher animal because it has a split.
He comes, he sits in the mud, he got his feet. Look, I have split feet. Esav didn't only try to make Yitzchak think he's not bad. He came along pious and righteous and holy. So the Rabbi says Esav's deviousness is worse than Lavan's deviousness. Shazahu achiluk bein Lavan le'Esav. That separates Lavan from Esav. They're both tricky. But shel Lavan, the word Lavan is circled. Rak rimes Yankir shel Yankir b'chshav te'ara. He didn't want Yankir to know what he's trying to do. Aval Esav, hisnai kechazir. He's a swine. He's a boar. Shalezu b'uvad she'master es hasimen atomei shebei. Not only hides the fact that he's treif, he wants you to think he's a holy roller, he's kosher. He puts his feet out of the mud. Look at me, I'm kosher. And therefore, within duplicitousness itself, the more difficult level of deviousness to deal with is somebody who tries to make himself look kosher. Someone doesn't want you to know they're lying to you. You have to overcome that. If someone's trying to make the impression that they're a tzaddik, that's even more difficult to overcome. So the Rebbe says, the Esav of a Yishlach is straight. He's in your face. Yanker deals with him in one day. The Esav of Toldes is worse than the Lavan of a Yetzi. Because the Esav of Toldes not only doesn't want you to know he's a Rosh, he wants to come across as a tzaddik. Lavan just doesn't want you to see his dishes. And then the Rebbe says in the bottom of the page, first column, page 117, a lesson. Ad kama yesh lehizar minyan atzvis. How you have to be very careful not to be phony, duplicitous, two-faced. Ki afsher, it's possible shayetzer yaskim, the Torah will agree sha'adam yasa ma'asim tevim, that the person should do good deeds. V'rishasei adayim l'sara menu klam. The good deeds are not a symptom of good; they're a symptom of evil. You have to be careful that not only what you do is correct, but why you do it is correct, because it's very easy to be duplicitous, to use fancy words. One of the things that people do best is fool themselves. And that's Esav. And to a lesser degree, that's Lavan. He tells himself he's a big tzaddik, he's not a big tzaddik at all. Second column, page 117. Lefi bir zeh be'inyan shel Esav. Based on what we just explained about Esav, Harasha. Yesh lahaven yeseh, we could explain better. Divrei ad morazokim b'tam marichat gol zeh. How come this gol is so long? And the entire next paragraph is a quote from the Maimeh we just read before. Inyan arichos hagolos hazeh. Why is this golos, the last golos, so long? Migolos hakadmeni, for the golos that came before. So the Alter Rebbe answers, Tzarich lahav, and we have to explain Melchamas Yankov and Esav. That when Yankov fights with Esav, Shayab is man kadosh nilchamim v'nitzchim. It was a very short time. He won him. Ubalav v'nishtachaf beit shanim. Love him took him 22 years. At shenem v'yav Yankov shon till he survived him. Rabbi, the answer is, why is it that Yankov defeats Esav in a day and Lavan takes him 20 days, 20 years? It's Lefisha Esav, because Esav Masha Libe Chafet Ken Yamal says whatever he wants to do, he does. Shahalach B'Shiridas Libe, he doesn't hide who he is, he tells you straight who he is. Raka Kalayim is evil all day long. V'Hakel B'Goli, it's all revealed. Eimer Masha Reitzeh, he says what he wants. Ve'David Amos is not devious. He's very easy to fight with. He shouldn't do what he wants in all the ways that he desires and that he wants. So Esav is an in-your-face bad guy. You could defeat him quickly. So and this explains in earlier times we knew exactly who was a Rasha because no one was ashamed. To do evil. So people who were bad told you straight up they're bad, then you're able to fix them quickly. Which is why the Gemara says, in earlier generations, when people were bad, they told you they were bad. And because they were told you they were bad, this revealed what the Avedis they did. It hastened the Geulah. But the later generations, nobody knows what our sin is. They hide their sins. And you cannot see. So they're trying to fool people. He's trying to hide his averas. He's afraid of sitting in public. So when you have hara, evil, which is nistar, v'nitman, u'mechusa, blacked, hidden, covered, Atzma himself, V'edis Hashem, says the Rebbe, this is a war that takes a very long time, like the war of Yankiv and Lavan. Shayarame b'Yossi was very devious, Vayakosha b'Yossi was very difficult for him, because there's no other way for Yankiv to win except play Esav's games. Lavan's games. The Alter Rebbe says Lavan represents a long golus because he tricks you. Esav represents a short golus because he tells you straight, right? Now what's going to be the question? How could you say that this long golus is like Esav? How could this long golus like Lavan? This is called golus Edom. It's the golus of Esav. If it's the golus of Esav, it should be quick. Why is it slow? Right, next paragraph. Everybody knows that there's goals of the goals of Edom, of Rome. She'esav hu Edom. Top of 118 now. But we're saying it has to do with Lavan. Make up your mind. Who is direct and who's tricky? We're saying that Esav is direct and Lavan is tricky. But in the Maimer, we compare our Golus, which is very long, to Lavan, even though it's Esav's Golus. What's the teretz? There's two Esavs. The Esav who's straight is straight as an arrow. The Esav who's devious is more devious even than Lavan. The Pianamatur, the teretz is, Esav Kufa yesh beizei fan. Esav has two methods. Against his father, he has an open warfare. For the Chain is Gabet all of Yankov Beleishi Ban Aruch, which is why Yankov able to defeat him so quickly. Skip the parenthesis. When it came to his father, his nag Esav B'Ramos. Esav was deceptive. V'eid Yesen B'Ramos to Lavan Kanal. U'bidur Zeshel Esav Kasha Yesen B'Dur Shel Lavan. So you have three madrigas. The most deceptive person is the person who comes across like a tzaddik. The less deceptive person, he doesn't want to come across like a tzaddik, but he wants you to think that he's honest. And the best person tells you straight, I hate you. So it's Esav, Lavan, Esav. Esav then was quick, because he told Yaakov, I hate you. Esav now takes forever, because Esav is smiling at us. And the Rebbe says, this final goal is that of Esav, which is compared to a pig. If he extends his hooves, kosher. The reason this goal is so long, what we're dealing with in this goal is to destroy such a hidden evil. Not only is the good mixed with the bad, moreover, we underscore you bring out your good attribute on the outside and try to show that you're kosher, and to defeat that takes even longer.
Is this because Esav was doing kibbud avahem and at the same time deceiving?
Right. And the Rebbe is saying that the kibbud avahem wasn't the genuine part. It was a part of the whole Gnevas Das. So Yankov dealt with Esav in a day because he was dealing with Esav who comes straight up and he says, I hate you. We're also dealing with Esav. But we're dealing with an Esav who doesn't come along and say, I hate you. He doesn't even come along and try to fool you. He says, I'm a bigger tzaddik than you. And this takes much, much longer.
Different order, though.
What do you mean?
The more deceptive Esav came first, and then he kind of transformed into, in your face, I hate you.
And then he became, and he morphed back into his earlier condition. Very good.